Asuka exited the glittering engagement banquet with a practiced smile, but the corridor ahead hummed with a discordant note. The bathroom door stood open, a finger's width. Inside, two silhouettes moved too close, too familiar. She pressed against the cold wall. Hiroshi's low laugh. Then a giggle. Yuki, her bridesmaid. Her childhood friend turned liar. Through the door crack, lipstick smeared on Hiroshi's collar, Yuki's fingers clutching his shirt. The engagement toast still hung in the air like mockery. Asuka didn't scream, didn't push the door. A slow, icy half-smile carved her lips. She smoothed her pale kimono and swept back into the ballroom, eyes tracking, not for sympathy, but for an instrument. Against a pillar, half forgotten, stood Kazuya, Hiroshi's younger brother, the shadow no one watched.
Marry me instead. Right now.
The orchestra swelled. Champagne glasses clinked. In that instant, the engagement was over, and no one yet knew. Kazuya's pulse froze. The wine glass in his hand tilted dangerously. Everything around them dissolved into static. Yes. Asuka tightened her grip and pulled. The crowded ballroom rippled as she cut through, dragging the younger brother behind her. Guests half-turned, confusion flickering. A woman gasped. Asuka didn't slow. The bathroom door swung. Hiroshi stumbled out, collar askew. He froze, his fiancé's hand in his brother's, vanishing toward the exit. Asuka shoved open the main door. A waiting car glided up. She pushed Kazuya onto the back seat, then slid in after him. The door slammed. City Hall rose out of the night, bureaucratic and indifferent. Fluorescent lights spilled across the registration desk. Asuka's hand guided Kazuya's to the paper. The clerk barely looked up. Signatures dropped, hers sharp, his tentative. The certificate glowed under the scanner. 2 names, freshly inked, now legally bound. In the car again, silence except the engine. Asuka stared straight ahead. Kazuya stared at his own palm, still feeling her touch. Back at the venue, Hiroshi stood frozen in the doorway, lipstick still vivid on his collar, grasping that the party had emptied of more than just guests. The car hummed to a stop before a dark country house, its wooden bones creaking in the night breeze. Asuka stepped out first, her kimono rustling like a ghost. Kazuya followed, his breath visible in the cold. Inside, the living room smelled of old wood and neglect. They stood a meter apart, the silence heavier than the beams above.
The guest room is through there.
Thank you. The words landed like stones in a pond, ripples fading before they reached anywhere. She walked, and he followed. Shoes left at the door on the chilled wood. Outside, the house absorbed them without a light. The trees held their breath. I didn't choose any of this. Asuka closed the shoji to her own room. 2 strangers now shared a roof, a name, and a legal bond that felt like a held breath. Morning clawed through the Tanaka family estate windows. The engagement flowers still bloomed in the foyer, untouched. His father's voice crashed through the shoji before his silhouette. Explain yourself, Hiroshi. Explain what you've done to this family.
Father, it wasn't Asuka misunderstood.
In another wing, Yuki buried her face in her knees. Her bridesmaid dress lay discarded in a heap as if it burned. By midday, a headline tore through every screen and doorstep. Elopement scandal shakes Tanaka family.
She humiliated us. Both of them, my own brother.
A maid slid the door shut on Yuki, her sobs muffling behind paper screens.
I'll bring her back. I'll make her see reason.
His mother's voice, icier than the morning, cut through. See that you do, or you'll be the one left outside these walls. The news spread faster than the champagne had flowed the night before. The Tanaka name was now a warning, not a promise. The sun rose and set over the country house 4 times before either of them spoke beyond past the salt. Kazuya swept the veranda each morning, watching Asuka through the paper screen, a silhouette of precision and unbreachable walls. On the 5th day, she knelt across from him and slid a bowl of rice forward. Her eyes were somewhere else. Why did you pick me? Out of everyone.
You never pretended. Even when everyone in that house performed for the Tanaka name, You just existed.
That's it? I existed. So you married me?
That's more than anyone in that family ever gave me, including your brother.
Kazuya set his chopsticks down. The words hit a place he hadn't known was tender. A small, unpracticed smile tugged at Asuka's mouth. Not the cold half-smile from the party, but something truly unguarded. It was the first real thing she had shown him. But the question it raised was louder than any answer. The fragile truce inside the country house shattered when Hiroshi's first message lit up Asuka's phone. Accusations, pleas, insults. Her screen flooded. He couldn't decide if he hated her or still wanted her. Asuka glanced at the preview, deleted, blocked, then did the same for the next 6 accounts he created. From the garden, Kazuya saw her silhouette through the shoji, a ritual of erasure, repeated without pause. She set the phone face down and returned to her tea, the intrusion dismissed like an insect buzzing at a window.
She's making a fool of me, after everything I gave her.
His room, littered with unsent wedding invitations, closed in on him like a collapsing stage set. He grabbed a crystal glass from the nightstand and hurled it. The shatter was the only answer his walls offered.
She'll see. I'm not the one who gets erased.
The country house sat silent under the stars, unaware that morning would bring a knock no one had invited. The knock did not come that morning. Instead, the house woke to the scent of miso and the sound of a knife against wood.
You cook.
Someone had to. And you looked like you'd survive on tea and vengeance.
Later, the garden path became a daily ritual. He would slow his stride to match hers. She would pretend not to notice. A thrush landed on a branch. Kazuya pointed. Look, and Asuka laughed. A real laugh, unpolished and bright.
He's exactly as I observed, but softer up close.
Evenings stretched on the veranda, tea cooling between them. They spoke of nothing important and everything if you listened.
You never told me what kind of tea you like.
I like whatever doesn't taste like obligation.
Kazuya held her gaze a beat too long, and neither looked away. The silence this time was a promise neither dared name. Kazuya slipped into the dust-thick study. On her desk, no stationery, only a half-burned candle and a leather spine peeking from a drawer. He pulled it free, a notebook tied with simple twine, pages pressed with use. He opened it. Asuka's handwriting, small, exact, dates, observations, maps. Top of the first page, 6-month exit plan. Phase 1, observe Kazuya Tanaka. Below bulleted, 0745 leaves apartment. Buys black coffee at Midori, pauses 6 seconds at crosswalk for stray cats. Another entry, grandmother's house deed can be reclaimed. Quiet, ideal anchor point.
She monitored me like a project, not love. Logistics.
Air left his lungs. The tea on the veranda, the laugh in the garden, all data for a file. His eyes froze on the date at the bottom, 2 weeks before the engagement party. He snapped it shut. The room tilted. Not a spontaneous elopement, a calculated acquisition. And he was the asset. Kazuya did not slam the shoji. He stood in the doorway, the notebook hanging from his hand like an accusation.
6 months. You planned me like a route on a map.
Yes.
Was any of it real? The bird, the tea, your laugh.
I was leaving Hiroshi no matter what. The bathroom just moved the date up. I watched you because you were the only one who didn't vanish when he entered a room. I needed to know if you were real.
She's not lying, but she's still holding a piece back.
I wasn't using you. I was choosing the brother I should have been engaged to from the start.
The notebook sagged. Kazuya's fingers loosened. Something inside him shifted, not forgiveness, but a question reframed. She had schemed, yes, but she had chosen him, and that truth, jagged as it was, finally had a voice. The gate rattled. Hiroshi's shout splintered the fragile silence they'd just begun to stitch. His headlights blazed through the morning fog.
Asuka, open this gate. You owe me an explanation.
Asuka straightened her spine. The ice returned to her eyes. She walked to the door like a general approaching a weak siege.
I owe you nothing. least of all the air you're wasting.
Kazuya followed, 2 steps behind, his hurt still raw, but his body instinctively between her and the intruder. He didn't look at her, but his shoulder brushed hers.
You planned this! You used my brother to humiliate me!
Kazuya's hand pressed her shoulder, a silent claim she hadn't expected.
She's manipulating you. Look at that notebook. She's been tracking you for months.
I know. I found it myself. And I'm still standing here.
Hiroshi's face twisted. He slammed the gate so hard the wood groaned. His car tore away, leaving only the scent of exhaust. The gate stopped vibrating. Asuka closed the door and walked back inside, Kazuya trailing in the hollow quiet behind her.
If you want out, I won't stop you. The marriage can be annulled.
I don't want annulment. I want the rest of the truth. The photo, the weeks of watching. What aren't you telling me?
She pulled a small photograph from her kimono sleeve and laid it on the table between them. The image was of him, mid-laugh, sitting alone at a cafe. Undated, unposed.
I took this 3 weeks before the party. I wasn't just observing. I was comparing every man I'd ever met.
She compared. She chose me. Not by accident. With full eyes open. But I kept my own door waiting.
You passed every test I didn't tell you about. Not just kindness, resilience, patience, a core that didn't bend.
Why not tell me earlier? Even after the proposal?
She didn't answer. And in that silence, Kazuya felt the shape of a secret he himself was still holding back. Kazuya didn't reach for the notebook. He pulled his phone from his pocket and set it on the table.
2 weeks before the party, I was in the park. You sat on the bench and talked to yourself. About an exit plan. About me.
The memory surfaced sharp. Her voice, low and fractured, listing the country house, a 6-month count, and his name.
I didn't feel watched or used. I felt seen. And for once, I decided not to be the brother who just stands there.
He turned the screen around. A scanned property deed filled it. The country house, acquired under his name, dated the day after he overheard her.
You bought the house before I even...
I prepared everything. I just didn't know if you'd actually come, so I left the door open and waited.
On the table, the photograph of him and the deed of the house mirrored each other, 2 people who had chosen long before they ever spoke.
He wasn't my escape. He was my accomplice, before I even knew.
Silence once filled this room. Now it held 2 people who had both schemed for the same quiet ending and finally found it. Asuka's shoulders heaved. The tears she'd cemented behind that engagement half-smile finally broke through, hot, unstoppable.
I was so afraid of being used again. I nearly turned you into a strategy.
Then we use each other fairly. No more schemes behind a screen. We plan together, or not at all.
I chose you because you're the brother I should have had from the start. Not by accident, by conviction.
And I bought this house the moment I heard you need an escape. I chose you before you even asked, and I'd do it again.
Then let's stop being each other's contingency plans. Let's be the ones who write the ending.
Kazuya took her hand. Their fingers wove together over the documents of their double deception, the notebook, the deed, the photo. He pulled her fully into his chest. The last wall between them crumbled, not into apologies, but into an alliance.
He bought the house for me before I ever opened my mouth. He's not my escape. He's my equal.
When they finally pulled apart, the room's silence had changed. It no longer separated them. It held them as one. The Tanaka formal chamber felt like a mausoleum. Hiroshi knelt, and the floorboards groaned under the weight of his parents' silence. His father's voice came from beyond a paper screen. "You are no longer heir to the board seat. Your engagement shattered our word." Through a side door, Yuki slipped in. No one greeted her. Her bridesmaid dress hung limp on a rack behind her, already packed.
I was her childhood friend, and now I'm just the girl who ruined an engagement.
She untied the obi one last time, then slid the shoji shut on her corner of the estate. Her footsteps faded down a rainy alley. Across town, Asuka and Kazuya walked through the market. Their joined hands were a quiet headline, and the whispers that trailed them were alive. A servant showed Hiroshi a live stream of the couple, smiling, unbothered, two shadows he couldn't reach.
She thinks she's erased me? I'll hold a press conference. I'll expose her notebook, her 6-month plan. The world will see the real manipulator.
His fingers flew across the screen, drafting a statement to every outlet. His father's warning was a whisper beneath a roar. The image of their united front burned behind his eyes. He would not let their story be the last one told. In the country house, Asuka opened a hidden drawer and pulled out a manila folder.
Hiroshi thinks he can expose my exit plan. He forgets I've been documenting his infidelity for 6 months.
She planned a counterstrike as meticulous as the escape.
They drove to a discreet lawyer's office, the folder on Asuka's lap.
We need to preempt any defamation. This file has dates, photos, hotel records.
The lawyer flipped through page after page, her eyebrows rising with each timestamp.
This goes back months. You never trusted him.
I trusted Data. If he wants a public war, we'll show them who he really is.
Then we stand at that podium together, and we tell the truth.
The lawyer notarized copies. Their story now had 2 versions, the one Hiroshi wanted to tell, and the one that would bury him. Hiroshi's press conference began with a rehearsed ache in his voice. He called Asuka a gold digger who'd trapped his naive brother.
She planned this for months. Manipulated my own brother to destroy our family.
But across town, Asuka and Kazuya already had their own microphones. Asuka's voice was steel.
Hiroshi Tanaka has been unfaithful for years. Here are the records. Times, dates, photos.
She didn't trap anyone. She freed us both from a lie. I chose her, and I'll keep choosing her.
Hiroshi's phone flooded with alerts. On every screen, the narrative had already flipped.
She had the evidence all along. I handed her the stage.
Within the hour, headlines read, "Asuka speaks. I chose the right brother." Hiroshi's press secretary tried to pull him away, but he stood frozen, his own narrative a wreck behind him. Asuka and Kazuya walked off the stage hand in hand, their truth now public. But Hiroshi's final collapse was still to come. The morning after the press conference, Hiroshi's office became a fortress of shame. Photographers choked the entrance, and he slipped out a service door. By week's end, the board stripped his title. A worker unscrewed his nameplate while Hiroshi watched through a rain-spattered window. Yuki boarded a northbound train without ceremony. The bridesmaid dress she'd once worn was folded into a charity bin seconds before departure. The Tanaka estate issued a formal statement recognizing Asuka and Kazuya as successors, but the language was tighter than a drawn bow. That evening a dinner was held. Elders sat rigid, passing plates with more ceremony than warmth. Kazuya pressed his palm against Asuka's under the table. Across the long room, a cousin looked away rather than meet his eyes.
They don't accept us. They just can't afford to reject us now.
Near the end, an elder lifted a velvet box. The Tanaka seal, meant for the true heir, glinted in the low light. Kazuya accepted the seal, but his fingers closed around it like a question, not an answer. The dinner concluded with strained bows. They had won the war, but the peace was still a negotiation. Months reshaped the country house. The veranda no longer creaked, it hummed. New shoji, fresh tatami, the quiet of 2 people who knew when to speak and when to leave space. Kazuya had turned the overgrown corner into rows of cabbages and herbs. His sleeves rolled, a notebook of soil feech in his pocket. Inside, Asuka sat at a low desk, a memoir open under her hand. Her pen moved in swift, precise strokes. The exit plan had become a new chapter.
I used to document every exit. Now I'm documenting a life I actually want to stay in.
Kazuya stepped in with 2 cups of tea, leaves still stuck to his apron. He set one beside her without a word.
You'll rewrite history until it tastes like our tea, won't you?
I'm not rewriting. I'm translating. Strategy into story.
They shared a simple dinner. Miso, rice, pickled radish from the garden. The conversation ebbed and flowed like a stream that had found its bed.
I bought this place thinking it would be her sanctuary. It became ours.
Their phones were off. The city was a rumor beyond the hills. The scandal had died, and in its place grew something stubborn and quiet, a love that had started as a plan and become a home. A year after the party, a magazine cover captured them, Power Couple, How Asuka and Kazuya Redefined Love. They arrived at the charity gala, Asuka in midnight silk, Kazuya in a sharp dark suit. The cameras turned, not in scandal, but in admiration.
You realize we've become the story they celebrate, not the one they dissect.
That's because we control the narrative now, always have.
Outside, across the street, Hiroshi stood behind a newsstand. His coffee had gone cold, his collar was clean, but his eyes were hollow.
I could have been there. The thought came, and he let it slip away, unheld.
The city lights blurred. He was a cautionary tale now, a shadow at the edge of a frame he'd once tried to break. Later, back at the country house, Asuka and Kazuya shed their formal clothes and sat on the veranda with 2 cups of sake.
To plans that become homes.
They drank, not to triumph, but to the quiet certainty that their union was unbreakable. 2 schemes that had become the same story. The sake cups emptied, but neither moved. The veranda held them, the night folding around their shoulders like a familiar coat.
And to think, it all began with a lipstick stain on the wrong collar.
I'm glad you overheard. I'm glad you walked to my pillar.
She turned to him, and for once there was no strategy, no exit plan, just the man she'd chosen.
This is the real thing. Not a scheme, a home.
Kazuya reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers lingering as if memorizing. They kissed softly, a meeting that needed no witnesses. It was the first kiss that wasn't a performance, and it held every yes they'd ever given. Above them, the garden breathed, and a single petal from last spring's cherry drifted onto the veranda. The country house glowed behind them, its paper walls holding their story in every seam. The camera pulled back, the 2 figures small against the wide night, and the sanctuary they'd schemed and loved into existence. Morning arrived, soft with cherry petals. Asuka and Kazuya walked the path she'd once watched from a distance, hand in hand. She turned, not to check behind, but to meet his gaze. That same half-smile from the party, now wholly his. Petals swirled around their ankles. The path curved ahead, unwritten, and they didn't look back. Far away, the grand engagement hall stood empty. The chandeliers were dark, the chairs stacked, and the last wilting flower had fallen. But no one remained to see it. The scandal was over, the invitations long since swept away. On the blossom path, Asuka's hand tightened around Kazuya's. The morning light drew a single, persistent line ahead. She had schemed. He had prepared. But here, on the path, there was no plan, only the quiet fact that they had chosen and kept choosing. Some stories begin with a lipstick stain, some end with a cherry petal. Every scheme between was just love, waiting to be recognized. They walked on. The camera lingered not on the empty hall, but on the blossom that landed where they had stood, a new season begun. They chose each other before they even knew. Some schemes are just love, waiting to be recognized. The path ended where the country house waited, its wooden frame bathed in the afternoon gold. Asuka and Kazuya stopped at the gate. Their silhouettes merged into one against the garden they'd grown together. She turned her hand in his, interlacing their fingers. The gesture said everything. The camera lingered on their joined hands, the old wood of the house witness to their quiet revolution. A single caption faded onto the screen, in letters as simple as the truth. They chose each other. The image held as gentle music rose. No more words were necessary. Credits began to scroll, white on dark, as the house watched over them. A final cherry petal drifted across the lens, and the screen softened to black. The story ended where it truly began, in a choice and in the home that choice built.